Chapter 90. The Cosmos Arena, 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 90, The Cosmos Arena, 1, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukito Okada. There wasn't much information about the other world. All entities from the alternate dimension were witnessed in unsupervised lands like the Black Sea, which fostered many monsters, or through different summoned beasts like the Phoenix. In his past life, Jean had never heard of the fire dimension despite his vast knowledge of magic, vast enough to trump many professors. Fire dimension. This is top-class information. Usually, incompetent and unimportant runts don't need to know this stuff. There aren't many dragons who exactly know of that place, and the number of those who have personally gone there are in the single digits. It's common knowledge that phoenixes are summoned beasts from the other world, but it's the first time in which the other world was called the fire dimension. Jean scratched his chin, and Muraken shook his head. The name, fire dimension, is just an easy name for us to call it in this world. It's just a dimension with fire and phoenixes. Even the gods don't know the true name of that world. Everyone listened to Muraken as if he were some lecturer. Enya, who was a pupil in magical studies, was very worked up. Even the gods don't know. Does that mean the fire dimension is outside of the gods' control? Exactly. Even the god of flames can't control the fire in that world. However, the ruler of the fire dimension, Tess, can't control Shinu's fire either. Ah. Then the Majestic became the young master's summoned beast. Isn't that a great thing? Strawberry pie is also correct. But as for it being a great thing, well, it's the opposite. It's very bad. Muraken clicked his tongue and a shadow loomed over his face. Quickantle's expression was still frozen, still shocked from meeting Tess. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. As Muraken's silence prolonged, some audience members gulped. They thought that Tess's summoner had received some special curse or something. Hey, just tell us. Don't just leave us hanging. Why's it bad? Jean grew impatient and asked Muraken. The shadow dragon lowered his head. It's great, only for you. God fucking damn it, I don't like that guy. Why Tess? There are so many other good phoenixes. There's Monnier or Shankish. Muraken threw a tantrum and some punches in the air. Many sighs of relief could be heard from the crowd. Jean thought that Muraken would never mature. Well, although I'm a little pissed, I'll offer you a bland congratulations, kiddo. You can't use that guy's full potential, 'cause you lack some mana, but it's better than some random phoenix. If I unleash all of their power, how strong will they get? You can't unleash all of their power. Never will. At full strength, your beast can vaporize a mid-high tier god. Quickantle shuddered at those words. She remembered the horrifying nightmare she experienced when she visited the fire dimension with Muraken and their respective gods, Ulta and Sodaret. That day, she watched 5 gods disappear from existence. What? They're that powerful? Jean asked, observing Quickantle's reaction. I heard he can't do it outside of the fire dimension. In my case, thank goodness. I can talk to them casually and even tease them a little. Just like how our gods can't use their powers in the fire dimension, the mutual penalty. I see. Well, even if Tessa's powers weren't that overwhelming, Jean was satisfied with it based on what he saw in textbooks. And the best part was that their fire could not be controlled by Shinu. A full-scale war was imminent between the Runcandles and Zipfuls. And if Jean were to fight against Keliark, Tessa's strength would be of great help. No matter its tier, normal flame spells would never be effective against Keliark, Shinu's contractor. Oh, and what did Tess want to tell me? What kind of conversation did you have with them? And am I not able to directly communicate with them? You can't. It's spiritual communication. And the thing they wanted to tell you is, well, nothing much. Just that they like you a lot. Also said it's the first time they were summoned for such a minor reason. They're a special fellow. Said to come over to the fire dimension after you get stronger. Oh, I can go there too. Well, when you reach 10. Star and can comfortably breathe in the fire. That neighborhood's a little rough. Murakan wrapped up his little explanation, and the party continued to talk about Jin's victory and his summoned phoenix. And as soon as the celebration ended, Kashmir took a bath and sat in his office, preparing himself to write a new letter. ***** Reaper scans **** January 1st, 1796. The new year came. On the first day of the new year, the family would get together and pray for a safe year. Fostering love with family, loved ones, and friends would be wonderful. But one man, Guardian Knight Khan, was charging through the Black Sea and covering himself in the black creature's blood and guts. And this time as well, he had a letter stored safely in his chest plate. His New Year's mission was to deliver a letter. This time, it has been 3 months. Did the young master defeat Elisa Betzer? Now I'm looking forward to this letter. Khan was also curious about the letter's content. It seemed to motivate a faster trek to Siren, who was at the center of the Black Sea. Greetings to the Patria, give it here. Yes, sir. With a grave expression, Siren hastily ripped off the seal. He looked like a parent who sent his children off to study abroad. To the legendary knight who I admire most, Lord Siren. Oh, it is the second letter. I am once again writing this letter with all of my heart and soul with the warm sun shining on my back, shorter. Pardon. Next time, tell Kashmir to write a shorter letter. Understood, Lord Patriarch. Just like last time, the long letter was at least 70% miscellaneous greetings. But reading the 4th page, Siren began to smile. It seems that young Master Jin defeated Elisa Betzer. Khan guessed so while watching Siren's expression. He won by catching her off guard. On top of that, he seemed to have tamed Tess the Phoenix. I'm sure you know who that is. I apologize, Lord Patriarch. I do not know of that entity. It's a blue fire phoenix, and any magician who summons it becomes the best magician of the century. Congratulations. But I don't care about some phoenix. Today's letter is just about it. Not more than a single line about Jin's swordsmanship. His swordsmanship improved significantly. At a ridiculous speed. Siren was disappointed. He allowed Jin to practice swordsmanship, magic, and spiritual energy at the same time. But of course, as a runcandle, he wanted to see more improvement in his son's swordsmanship. Khan nodded. I can see the problem. It's a little worrying that he might be too entrenched in magic. It's exactly as you said. I know he'll balance it out well on his own, but it's getting on my nerves. A long silence. While Khan maintained his kneeling position, Siren spoke. Ron Heron's son. Go find out what he's up to. Ron Hyran. The Vermont Empire's Swordmaster, patriarch of the Hyran clan, and at some point, Siren's worst enemy. However, the difference in their power became clear when Siren achieved the Genesis Knight realm. Even Ron's children were being overpowered by the Runcandle children. In that situation, the most talented child was born, Ron's son. Despite being a child, he already transcended his generation, being deemed the next patriarch. You mean Dante Hyran? Coincidentally, there is information about his recent whereabouts. Really? Yes. Not long ago, we received a request regarding the Cosmos Arena. Seeing that the request asked for an assassination of a pirate, Dante Hyran entered the competition with a fake name. Siren's eyes shimmered. The Cosmos Arena. I'm sure that's the fighting competition hosted by the pirates. I remember Mary got second place and threw a tantrum. That is correct, Lord Patriarch. And to my knowledge, it was her first defeat. However, she went back for revenge 2 months later. A secret that not many clans people knew. Send Jean there and have him fight Dante Hiran. It'll be fun. He can't use his magic or spiritual energy there, right? He can only fight with his sword. The only cases when Jean can use his spiritual energy and magic was when there were no witnesses, or he can get rid of all the witnesses. Of course, he could not use all three of his strengths in that contest. He could enter as a magician and only use magic, or he can enter as a knight and only use swordsmanship. And Jean could not fight Dante with only a sword. Siren wanted to stimulate Jean through Dante. The phoenix and magic were nice and all, but Siren wanted Jean to prioritize the art of the sword. Understood. I will deliver your message to Sir Kashmir. ******. However, the 16-year-old used most of his time training his swordsmanship, enough to make Siren's concerns pointless. 10,000 swings. The first, same as the last. After ending the consecutive battles with Elisa, he devoted all of his energy into his training. But he didn't feel as impatient to improve. Thanks to Elisa, he learned many things about himself. Is it not boring, young Master Jean? Nope, it's only fun. Did you say it's boring? I prepared this for you. Ta-da! Kashmir pulled out a piece of paper and shook it in front of Jean. What's this? An entry to the Cosmos Arena. Recently, the intelligence agents found out that a special fellow is entering this competition. An opponent that would compel you to fight, Dante Hiran, the Hiran clan's next patriarch. Dante Hiran. Why is that guy going there? From Jin's knowledge, the Cosmos Arena was just a playground for pirates. In fact, most of the competitors were around 2 to 3. Kashmir raised his eyebrows and continued. You are mistaken. This competition is more dangerous than you think. Chapter 91. The Cosmos Arena, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 91, The Cosmos Arena, 2, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukito Okada, it's more dangerous than I think. Jean repeated Kashmir's words as he sheathed his sword, and his companion nodded in affirmation. Indeed. It doesn't have a no-killing rule, unlike other competitions, so it's very dangerous. Although it's true that most of the competitors are novices, some competitors are just there for slaughter. The Cosmos Arena had no rules, as expected from a pirate-organized fight. Including murder, there were no other restrictions for special weapons and tools. It was a crazy competition that even allowed murder or assassination before the fight. You just need to defeat your opponent using any method. There's a story where a guy held the opponent's family hostage and threatened to kill them. All in order to win, of course. Which was why, even though the opponents were only 2 to 3. Competitors had to anticipate dirty tricks. 4 to 5. Who don't know anything will become their prey. After walking the world while being oblivious of the world's dark side, they become humiliated by the tricks and gimmicks used in that crazy competition. Well, I'm not saying that you'll experience the same thing. You are, well, far off from that level. Indeed, he wasn't even comparable to those people. There are also fighters who are above 6. Who take down the opponent with the use of immense strength. At that point, it doesn't matter if they use tricks or not. These are the true predators of the arena. Well, they're just perverts who come for the stimulation. Stimulation. Yes. You know, those kinds of people. Sadists who destroy their enemy and feel satisfaction from it, the most dangerous people. Man, what kind of competition allows this stuff to happen? According to Kashmir, it was a dirty, low contest. One characterized by filthy scuffles that enticed its audience to drink and gamble. Well, the official name isn't a competition, it's just an arena. If it wasn't for Dante, I wouldn't have asked you to enter. Surely he won't fit into the crowd. Is there some insane grand prize awaiting for first place? The winner can choose from a plethora of prizes or 1,000 gold coins. To a commoner, that would be a lot of money. But for the successor of the Hiran clan, it would be pocket change. Then is his mortal enemy there or something? As of now, we have no information regarding his entry. But in my opinion, Kashmir paused for a second. Maybe he wants to test his swordsmanship. To see if his blade will glow in the darkness of evil tricks. If not, he's just throwing himself into a shithole. That made no sense. It would make no sense if Dante really entered the dirty competition in order to test his swordsmanship. Either way, I feel compelled to go. Dante Hiran. I could never dream of fighting him. Before his regression, prior to his banishment from the clan, the commoners would always debate who was stronger with the sword, Dante or Baradin. Because they had many similarities. They were both over 7. At an early age, were nominated as the next patriarch of their respective powerful clans, and achieved 9. At the age of 30. Whenever they encountered each other during a meeting, the press would go off. On top of that, they were the same age. At the time, they got more attention than the Runcandle children. Eldest sister Luna didn't present herself too much, and eldest brother fell behind them. There weren't any other second-generation Runcandle who was stronger than Dante other than Luna. Though, there wasn't definitive proof that he was stronger than all of the Runcandle children, but that's what the world thought. He's a fellow I'm curious about. There's nothing bad from meeting him once. Hopefully, he's not hot. Headed like the Baradin from my past life. However, Kashimir's exaggerated attitude was getting on his nerves. He could have just naturally asked Jean to compete, but he was promoting it as if he were a businessman selling drugs. And I'm sure the 7-colored peacock doesn't have spare time to investigate Dante Hiran. All of the best agents should be investigating the Zipfuls, Alu, and Kinzalo. I doubt that it's just some idle information they found, thinking until that point, Jean smiled. It was father's orders. The information about Dante is likely to have come from the Runcandle clan. And now that I think about it, back at the garden, father sent me off first so he could talk to Kashmir alone. He pondered the possibility of Kashmir sending reports to Siren regarding his progress ever since that day at the Garden of Swords. However, it wasn't of any importance. There weren't any disadvantages that would affect Jean. Instead, he felt a little mischievous. Sir Kashmir, do I really need to go? I don't really want to attend such a pathetic battle. And I can face Dante Hiran any time in the future. Ahem. Young Master Jean, please think about it. You would obviously meet him many times since you are a Runcandle, but would there be an opportunity to fight him? It could be a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I'm not some fighting legend or anything. And I've recently been feeling tired from fighting Lady Elisa. Why? Young master, don't be like that. Just trust me and try participating. Isn't it a chance to evaluate Dante Heron's strength? My tongue is getting twisted. Maybe I'm getting a heatstroke. Jean pointed to the window and laughed. Outside, snow was falling. The early January blizzards were rolling in. Heatstroke. Oh, my mistake again. Anyways, young Master Jean. I've already filled out your entry form. Just trust me and enter, okay? I'm sure this will be a great experience for you. Well. If you say so, then there's nothing I can do. I'll participate. Thank you, young Master Jean. Oh, and on top of that, you must leave tomorrow. The schedule is tight. That is all. Tomorrow. Wait, Sir Kashmir. Kashmir quickly escaped the training area without looking back. And Jin's suspicions were solidified. He's definitely reporting my progress to father. And this must be the first order, to face Dante Hiran. Jin chuckled. He knew his father was interested in him and his progress, but he didn't think that it was enough to make him intervene. His siblings would go crazy if they found out. And Sir Kashmir is terrible at acting. Is it just in front of me? I heard he was really good at politics after becoming the ruler of Tychon. Jean chuckled once more. Asterisk 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 Reaper scans asterisk 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 The Cosmos Arena was hosted on an island south of the Bellard Empire. It was right outside of Bellard territory, so the surrounding ocean was the pirates' playground. Jean went alone to that island. It's a mission ordered by father, so it's right to not bring anyone else. If he brought anyone with him, Jean would have an emotional attachment that could potentially drag him down. He knew what his father wanted to say. To sweep the competition alone with a sword. Using magic and spiritual energy around a massive audience was crazy. It's been a while since I received a solo mission after the one in Mummet. But just like last time, I'm dealing with outlaws. After arriving in the Bellard Empire, he took a ferry to the island, using up a thick bag of gold. The island didn't look nice. It had the ambience of the lowest of the low infesting the place, with stenched streets that had fresh streaks of blood everywhere. Any type of disturbance would get one stabbed. In addition to being a remote island, since it was filled with pirates who tasted the bitter and sweet of life, it was impossible to maintain order in the place. Keek keek. Every 5 steps, there were people laughing hysterically, driven mad by drugs. But not all were like that. Occasionally, there were houses with guards and children, and knights who had decent armor. They were either competitors or spectators of the arena. Jean began to follow one of these respectable people. He felt that he could arrive at the reception desk after following the man. And just as he thought, after walking for 30 minutes, he reached the reception desk. A single table set up in front of an arena that looked worse than a pig pen. I came to register for the arena. He held out the entry form that Kashmir filled out, and the receptionist opened his eyes. Hair covered his big body, and tattoos crawled all over his arms. Ha! The time frame for registration's already passed. Fuck off. Better if you die while leaving. It's past. I'm sure you guys are open until sundown. Oh, I just don't want to take any more entries. You deaf. The man then formed a circle with his thumb and index finger. Clearly, he wanted money. Jean knew to end money-related problems by paying up. With the added interest of beating some sense into the guy. Crack. Jean kicked the table to the side. As the man tried to stand up, Jean slammed his fist on the crown of his head. In Jin's fist was the crumpled registration form. Irk. Arg, this bastard. Take it. I'll give you the money. And he threw some gold coins on the ground. The guy's expression brightened, and he nodded. Jean could only be surprised at the strength of his punch, which could have severely injured a trained 4-star knight. However, even though the guy took the hit, he immediately stood up and laughed at the sight of money. Registration complete. Ha ha ha. A hotshot kid. I like it. You'll fight in group 13. Take this and go inside. The other fellows will escort you. The man handed him a small piece of paper with something written on it. Group 13, Jean Grey. Kohaha, welcome to the Cosmos Arena, filled with love and fervor. Try your best. Since he struck me for no reason, I'll stick him with the strong guys. Oh, and if this kid doesn't survive tonight, I'll cook him and feed him to the sharks. The man, smiling with his gold-plated teeth, was the host of the competition. Pirate King Cosmos. Chapter 92. The Cosmos Arena, 3, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 92, The Cosmos Arena, 3, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukito Okada, filled with love and fervor. And yet, the arena interior reflected the structure of a prison. There were long, dark hallways with individual rooms squished together on either side. However, instead of a normal door similar to that used on a normal house, each room had a jail door. The only difference the place had from a prison was that the competitors could enter and exit the rooms freely. Also, the guides, Cosmos's underlings, were pretty nice. What's this? There's a fetus in this competition. Kohaha, this year's Arena Rumble is filled with children. Khmer. Let's see. What the, Group 13. Oh, And you beat the captain. This kid's a special breed. Amazed, the guide scanned Jean. Kids these days don't have any fear. There's another kid who struck the captain, and if you two fought, it'd be fun to watch. Unfortunately, your groups are different. There was no need to ask who that kid was. On this deranged island, there wasn't any other teenager aside from Dante Hiran. So, what room do I use? Jean asked with irritation, and the guide only shrugged in response. Wherever the fuck you want. Group 13 fights tomorrow, so if you're bored, go watch the other groups. Shouldn't you make some fun memories before you die? The guide definitely thought that Jean would die immediately. However, it wasn't in a mocking tone, so Jean just walked past him and began to choose a room. Clop, clop. As he observed each room while walking slowly, he noticed that there was significant diversity within the rooms. One room had someone sitting in the corner and muttering prayers, another had someone inspecting unidentified objects. Some competitors had already formed gangs and bantered amongst themselves. In some aspects, it felt more barbaric than the Mummet lawless zone. And that pirate named Cosmos. He's not an easy fellow. I wonder why he's marauding in this area. Jean shrugged and chose a room. He had been roaming the halls for about 10 minutes, but there wasn't any specific room that was cleaner or nicer. They were all old and dirty. In fact, there aren't enough rooms for all of the competitors. It seems that 2 or 3 people per room is the norm. It's extremely obvious that they intentionally wanted to cram people in here, and I hate it. The Cosmos Arena was a scuffle in which killing was allowed even before the fight. The contest was more of a survival game than a regular scuffle. Hence, they purposefully crammed the competitors into cramped rooms. They wanted them to fight whenever possible in the tight spaces. And once one entered the competition, it was impossible to withdraw. Cosmos's underlings guarded the entrance, and the other competitors would not let anyone escape so easily. If someone were to make a poor attempt at escaping, the other competitors would turn the runaway into dead meat before the guards could even get to them. That was the very reason why Cosmos thought that Jean would become shark food if he didn't survive, and the reason why the guide said that Jean will die anyways. It was hard to expect a newbie to survive in such a savage environment. They thought that Jin's chances of death were high even if he were a talented 4-star. In order to survive the veiled enmity in rotten gimmicks, observation and experience was more important than pure fighting power. And to a pirate, that wasn't something a young adult would have. You are mistaken. This competition is more dangerous than you think. Jean remembered Kashimir's words. After exploring the area, he finally understood what he meant. Well, it's an experience. In the middle of the long hallway, Jean pulled on a cell door. Clack, creak. The irritating sound of metal scraping against concrete echoed, and the 3 competitors inside the cell glared at Jean. Can't you see that there are already 3 people in here? Fuck off to another room, kid. Man, as much as this is a shitty contest, this is off the top. They let babies enter. Why are you just standing there? Go away. The 3 guys were in their mid to late 20s. Hearing their attitude and seeing their crooked posture, Jean concluded that they were just some irrelevant gangsters. I wonder who said that punches were medicine for these kinds of people. I wonder. Was it an old master? Was it elder sister Mary? Thinking that he should still give them a chance before beating them up, Jean met eyes with each of them. Starting today, I'm using this room by myself. I will count to 3. I'm sure that's enough time for all 3 of you to walk out of this room. He didn't have any intentions of sharing a room, not even in the slightest. If he left these people next to him, they could backstab him at any moment. The hoodlums doubted their ears and blinked. 1, 2, 3. Bam. Crack. Tum. 2 punches and 1 wrestling throw. All of which resulted in a fractured bone, shattered skull, and a dislocated shoulder, respectively. The thugs couldn't even react to the quick attacks. Following the painful cries were loud cheers echoing from the adjacent room. Jean put his hands on his hips, and the 3 scrambled out of the room without a single word. Clean room. Check. But the real battle had just begun. I'm certain that other people will attack me after seeing that I'm alone here. Well, so much for sleep, and his prediction was precise. Not even 10 minutes later, 2 contenders appeared. Hey, let's share a room. They entered with bravado. Burk. Arg. Although it was adorable of them to get beat up and run away from him, Jean couldn't forgive those who sprayed poison or fired a crossbow. For those people, he cut off either all of their fingers or their entire hand. It would convey a better message to the other contenders rather than just killing them. However, the most concerning type of people were the ones who just watched and then walked past. They will definitely strike when they see the opportunity. Possibly when I'm busy dealing with the other guys and lowering my guard. He wasn't scared, but more so they were getting on his nerves. Because he couldn't use magic or spiritual energy. It's kinda pressuring that I have to use my sword in whatever situation I get into. Since I'm used to always utilizing all 3 of my strengths. Either that or he had his companions to rely on. And not so long ago, he had a necklace that would save him, no matter who he faced. I can see why Father wanted to send me here. Fighting Dante is important, but it's also to drag down my ego on my swordsmanship. So much time passed as he watched the entrance to his cell, with his senses heightened to the maximum. Then, he heard the guide's voice resounding from outside. All right. We'll have the battles for groups 1 and 2. If you want to watch, then get your asses to the audience seats. Oh, and I'm sure you know the audience seats is a murder-free area. Don't do dumb shit. Or else. Well, you know the consequences, so watch your ass. Clank, clang. The cells in the hallway began to open one by one. They were all heading over to watch the fights between the participants in groups 1 and 2. And on top of that, since the area was murder-free, they could finally be at ease. With that, there also seemed to be an implied rule: no one attacked another as they relocated to the seats. So Jean tried to naturally join the cramped line. The guys who looked at me and walked past. If I were them, I would stab my target while we're in that line. That would bring the highest chance of success. No matter how great Jean was, noticing a blade and dodging it was impossible when standing in the middle of a crowd. However, not attacking while amongst the line was at most an implied rule. He had read the rules on the back of the entry form dozens of times, but it had no mention of it. After all, it wasn't one established by the host. Of course, if anyone attacked Jean, then the surrounding people would glare at the attacker. However, they would rather thank the murderer for eliminating the arrogant kid who monopolized a room. There's nothing bad about going out late. I'll leave after the hallway clears up. Which was the right decision. The ones who glanced at Jean and walked past earlier were all part of the same group. They assumed that Jean was a 4-star and had plans to eliminate him. They didn't really have a reason to get rid of him. They just thought that he was the most enjoyable to kill amongst all of the other prey. However, they could not execute their plan because of Jin's quick thinking. Watching this, the guide muttered. I thought he was just a fearless child who just trusted his strength, but he's also very intelligent. I can see why the boss stuck him against the stronger opponents. As the hallway cleared up, Jean silently left his room. Getting closer to the arena, the screams and shouts grew clearer. Arriving in the audience seats, Jean silently stood to conceive the massive crowd. Holy shit! This many people came to see this. Excluding the contenders, there were at least 1,000 other spectators. For a moment, Jean worried that there may be someone who would recognize his face, but he didn't think that someone who went to a run-candle banquet would come to such a dirty place. Well, as for Dante Hiran, he probably entered knowing that not many people knew what he looked like and that his acquaintances will not attend this arena. Still, if he knew that there would be this many people, he would have focused on his disguise a little more. Jean licked his lips and sat in a decent spot. He could hear the spectators' voices. They looked like upper-class Bellard Empire nobles who visited the arena annually. Hey, you heard the rumor. What rumor? There's a rumor that a run-candle provisional flag bearer is attending this arena with a fake name. Reaper scans. Chapter 93. The Cosmos Arena, 4, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 93, The Cosmos Arena, 4, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukit Okada, Jean flinched. Shit. What the hell? Why do people already know? Jean would have never thought of hearing this kind of rumor right as he reached the audience. He sneakily took a seat near the two nobles and listened in on their conversation. A run-candle provisional flag bearer. Huh, you fool. Why would someone that amazing come here? This place is only crawling with the lowest of the low. It's just something that I heard while drinking with the Cosmos Pirates executives. They said that there's a talented youngling among the combatants, and they were sure that it was one of the run-candle's provisional flag bearers. Really? Let's see. Right now, the Run-Candle clan's 3 active provisional flag bearers are Daytona, Haytona, and Jean Runcandle. So it's one of those 3. Jean Runcandle really shook the public last year. Every single press talked about his 5-star achievement. Either way, the executive guy was certain. One of those 3 must have entered. Jean found it interesting that he was closely listening to nobles discussing this new rumor. I guess the clan's fame and power is really well known. My name was written in press releases many times, but they even know the Tawna twins' names. The Tawna twins were about to become provisional flag bearers. Before Jin's regression, they started their provisional flag bearer missions around 1796 or 1797. Thinking about the environment and mood of the Cosmos Arena as well as the twins being deemed the nefarious homicidal maniacs in his past life, Jean inferred that it was completely possible for them to join the arena. Of course, in this life, the Tawna twins were abused by Jean since their youth. Compared to his past life, they got significantly tamer. If the twins did enter, then it's great for my case. I can bring them to my room and use them as guards. Make them do all of the dirty work as well. Afterwards, the nobles debated on which Runcandle entered the competition. Not only that, but other nobles also began to whisper about the same topic. Now that I think about it, most of the spectators are nobles. Well, rich people are always looking for some entertainment. Kriak. A massive steel door on one side of the circular stadium suddenly began to open. A man then emerged and walked to the middle of the arena, Pirate King Cosmos. As soon as he appeared, the audience went crazy. Cosmos seemed to be very popular with the crowd. Thank you for waiting. Cosmos. Cosmos. Around him were nobles who screamed and cheered in excitement for outright criminals. It was bizarre to witness the very people who looked down upon common folk suddenly cheer for lawbreakers. Ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Cosmos Arena. I, Pirate King Cosmos, thank you for coming here. Ha ha ha. This time, there are significantly more people than last year. I can't wait to see the fight. Clap. Cosmos clapped some and fireworks were shot into the air, coloring the sky in bright colors. As the explosions ensued, the air around them warmed up. Alrighty, alrighty. Then, let's get right into the fight. Hee, fellas. Bring in 2 guys from Group 1. Cue the horns. 2. Tootut. The pirates at the edge of the arena blew their horns. The steel doors on both sides of the arena rose, and the contenders revealed themselves. Each group had 14 people, and since there were up to 13 groups, there were 182 contenders who entered this filthy contest. There was no other fighting competition that had this many people. The lucky guy to fight in the honorary first round. Last year's 16th round qualifier and cutie of Shark Pirates. Mantis. And the opponent. Cosmos' eyes narrowed and shoved his face into the roster. His expressions implied that something was wrong. Oh damn. I'm gonna get flamed by the shark dude's captain. And I'll drown the guy who planned the brackets. Well, here he is anyway. Paul Mick. Who's Paul Mick? Never heard of him. Seeing Cosmos's reaction, I think he's a special fellow. As the nobles conversed with astonishment, Mantis entered the arena first. With a shriveled physique and a distinct shark tattoo on his back, he made an awkward stance with scimitars in his hand. The epitome of a pirate. Ho ho, Cosmos. What kind of guy is Paul or Mick or something? Making me all nervous. I'm a little disappointed, making me look bad. Cosmos ignored Mantis's banter. Paul Mick came out of the waiting room, and the audience began to chatter. That's a kid. What is this? I know that there were a lot of kids in this contest, but this is too much. If he bent his knees a little, the sword on his back would drag on the ground. Ho ho. Jean was also a little surprised. This Paul Mick guy didn't look like he was over 15. 13, 14. They let a child enter here. That's crazy. He would have jumped into the arena without hesitation. He couldn't just let the child die there. If Cosmos didn't make a strange reaction, that is. Wait. Is that kid Dante Hyran? No, Dante Hyran is 3 years older. The next series of events was most surprising. Notifying the start of the battle, Cosmos walked out of the ring, and Mantis shrugged in confusion. However, it happened in an instant. Mantis's neck was cut. Oh. What was that? Anyone see that correctly? The audience couldn't exactly pinpoint when the pirate's head fell off. It was obvious. The movement was so quick that Jean, who was about to hit 6. Barely saw what happened. It was a crescent slash. He instantly closed the gap between them, and when he was only 5 steps away from the pirate, he used a crescent slash to slice his head off. Damn, that guy, no, there was no doubt about it. Amongst the contenders, there was no one other than Dante Hyran who could pull it off. The audience went quiet. Those who were talking until a minute ago were now at a loss for words. Thud. Mantis's body fell to the ground. And Cosmos smacked his forehead, dumbfounded. Wow, fucking damn it. Mantis was a 16th round finalist, so we could have profited off his popularity. And now, he just dies. Well, anyway. It's Paul Mick's victory. Cosmos announced the victor, but the audience remained silent. While everyone was still shocked, a man in the VIP seats on the opposite side of Jin's seat stood and began to clap. From now on, I have all my money on Paul Mick. Paul Mick. Paul Mick. Amazing. And surprisingly, it was someone that Jean knew well. What the, Baradin Zipfel? Why's he here? Jin's eyes widened, and he had to reconfirm that the face he saw was Baradin Zipfel. The audience began to belatedly cheer. Baradin had come by order of the Zipfel elders. Since the Hyran clan successor was growing rapidly, they ordered Baradin to come and see for himself. Woohoo! This youngling spicy. I'm also betting on Paul Mick this time. All in. And the two Bellard Empire nobles in front of Jean began to whisper in certainty. See. Is my information ever incorrect? It's him, the Runcandle provisional flag bearer. Wow. That's a surprise. Well, if he isn't a Runcandle provisional flag bearer, he can't do that at that age. I'm sure that's Jean Runcandle. Me too. He's too young to be one of the Tawna twins. The other nobles nearby nodded in approval. Of course, no one yelled his name out loud. They knew that blabbering about a provisional flag bearer would result in a manhunt. Which was why they were whispering amongst themselves. Paul Mick is Jean Runcandle, Paul Mick is the provisional flag bearer. Listening to all this, Jean scoffed. Anyways. It's my first time seeing Dante looking that young. In my past life, I just heard from the press that he looked nice, but he doesn't even look 19. Jean looked at Paul Mick, no, Dante and then at Baradin, who was still clapping. Baradin probably came because his clan told him to. He's also getting on my nerves, just like Dante. He's definitely going to notice me. And if he does, he's going to be a pain in the ass. His anxious predictions couldn't be wrong. And unfortunately, right at that moment, Baradin spotted Jean, who was looking at him intently. Oh. Wow. Baradin crazily waved his arm at Jean. Of course, Jean ignored him and looked back at Dante. Amusingly, Dante turned his head and glared at Baradin. That is. Baradin Zipfel. Is he acting like he knows me? I've only met him at the Zipfel banquet and yet, he's enthusiastically greeting me. Alright, I will also greet you, Baradin. Misunderstanding the situation, Dante waved his hand at Baradin. Jean burst into laughter. He couldn't read Dante's mind, but he could assume what he was thinking. Funny fellows. Cosmos's underlings ran over and retrieved Mantis's corpse. Alrighty, alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems that Mantis had a short standing. Let's hear some words from our victor. Mr. Paul Mick, how do you feel? I feel like I got rid of another filthy scum. I pray he doesn't become a pirate in his next life. Although his appearance was childlike, his voice was comparably deeper. And with it, he berated the pirates in a pirate's cove. A lot of pirates ground their teeth, but they couldn't attack Dante. Their hesitation was expected after bearing witness to his swordsmanship. Cosmos let out an awkward chuckle and nodded. Being a pirate isn't a job to recommend to children. But remember that it's a great start for those cornered at the bottom of the social ladder. Dante silently walked towards the waiting room, and Cosmos carried on with the battles. Jean then thought to himself while watching Dante's back. That guy. Can I beat him? Reaper scans. Chapter 94. The Cosmos Arena, 5, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 94, The Cosmos Arena, 5, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukit Okada. Jean quickly concluded that a fight against Dante was winnable. If I could use magic and spiritual energy. Not long ago, he defeated a former Vermont Special Forces agent, though she was retired and washed out. It was true that Dante was very talented, but Jean could definitely take him down. But if we were to fight only with swords, there's no certainty. His crescent slashes, agility, explosive strength, and accuracy were all extraordinary. The second battle began, but it didn't catch his eye. Instead, the sight of Dante beheading Mantis constantly repeated in his head. Dante Hiran definitely practiced more skilled swordsmanship. It was inevitable because he was 3 years older. So Jean had to analyze. He could possibly win if he gathers all methods of victory until he meets Dante in the arena. But unlike the other contenders, I don't want to use tricks or gimmicks on him. It's only meaningful if I beat him head-on. While Jean was deep in his concerns, on the opposite side of the arena, Baradin couldn't contain his beating heart as he sat in his VIP seat. Thank God I came. Who would have thought that Jean also entered? And seeing him and Dante meet swords like this, is a miracle. Jean and Dante. Baradin considered them to be his only two rivals in the world, and he never expected to meet both of them here. Unfortunately, Jean didn't really care about Baradin. Reaper scans Jean watched all of the battles in groups 1 and 2. He concluded that there was no other formidable foe aside from Dante. From the beginning, he could tell that the arena was closer to a tragic slaughterfest than a fighting tournament. Those who were 3-star and below were busy using tricks. And the inexperienced contestants fell for said tricks, which then satisfied the nobles who were watching. The veterans tortured their opponents, and the crowd would then cheer. That was the Cosmos Arena. Starting tomorrow, they'll start doing 4 or 5 groups per day. Then I'd be on the field after 4 days. Until then, he had to survive the nights in the arena. Which was the most dangerous aspect, more than the battle itself. There were 147 people left in the arena living spaces. Out of 182 contenders, 35 had already died. About 10 of them actually died from battle, and the other 25 died while fighting in their cells before the real fights. Poisoning, assassination, and ambush were staple methods. There were also gang fights. Just sitting in one's room and trying to rest was a one-way ticket to hell. However, Jean couldn't just not sleep for the next 4 days. Having a light nap while in the audience seat was possible, but a deep sleep was impossible. I did get insomnia training during my cadet years. But this is the first time I'm trying to last 4 days. He had already thought of making some contestants his underlings and they could take turns resting. But is there anyone he could trust in this tournament? Trust them with his back, enough to protect him while he eats, sleeps, or rests until his battle. There was no one. About 70% of the contestants were plundering pirate outlaws, and about 20% were cunning gangsters. Still, the slightly better 10% were just regular knights who attended just to gain some experience since they didn't know much about the world. In simpler terms, they were incompetent, ordinary people. And most of them had already died. They were too naive to survive in the hellhole they were in. But if they were alive, Jean would team up with them anyways. Fuck it. I'll just stay awake. It's not like I'm the only tired one. The ones who'll try to kill me will also die of exhaustion. Shing. Jean unsheathed Bradamante and set it on the ground as he sat down, making it easier for him to swing it as soon as someone attacked him. Time passed very slowly. While his senses were heightened, time felt as if it passed even slower knowing that there were 147 enemies outside his room. As he watched the time pass at a snail's pace, the sun eventually rose and illuminated the surroundings. And Jean was not attacked a single time. Did cutting off their fingers scare them off? I didn't think that no one would come to my room. Of course, that didn't mean that Jean could sleep tonight without worry. The others could be waiting for Jean to lower his guard. It seems that many fights broke out throughout the night. The contender count decreased from 147 to 140, and although not dead, there were many who were severely injured. As he satiated himself with dried food and water, the guide notified the start of the battles. There were battles scheduled all the way until the next morning. Rumble, rumble. With tired expressions, the contenders moved their feet. Just like last time, Jean waited for the crowd to die down before proceeding to the audience seats himself. And the events were the same as yesterday. He watched pathetic scuffles and returned to his room as the battles ended. Because murder was prohibited while in the audience seats, Jean could catch multiple light naps. Other contenders did the same, but it didn't really help with getting rid of the exhaustion. Another night came. For the 2 days Jean was at the arena, he didn't do anything. Other than chasing out the previous inhabitants of his room. Despite doing nothing, he felt like dying from acute exhaustion obviously caused by sleep deprivation. But he wouldn't be this tired just because of sleep deprivation. The fact that he had to heighten his senses and be prepared for battle for 2 straight days exhausted him most. It was hell. Today, and tomorrow. Gotta hold on. They said that I can get actual time to rest during the preliminary rounds, so I have to clench my teeth and endure. It didn't matter. As long as his opponent wasn't Dante, he could destroy them with 20% of his power. Even if it was a talented veteran. Jean kept Bradamanti out, prepared to strike. Time, again, went slower than ever. Was it because of his accumulated exhaustion? He almost nodded off to sleep multiple times due to fatigue. And strangely, the night was quiet. There were occasional screams of death, but that was all. Yet again, no one attacked Jean that night. And the fact that no one did tortured Jean. He confirmed that there were people who waited for him to lower his guard, but he felt humiliated realizing that he had no idea who was doing so. And as the day's 4th hour approached, a thought shot through Jin's brain. Do I just go out and kill all of them? Chills. Most of the contenders were bad people. However, he still debated whether it would be right to slaughter 100 people for no reason. Ha! I'm going crazy. As Sir Kashmir said, it's a dangerous competition. Phew. He took a deep breath, and regained his composure. As a knight, he knew he could kill many people, but he didn't feel the need to become a mass slaughterer. And after 1 hour, clop, clop. He heard footsteps growing louder in the hallway. There was no way it was just a passerby. It had to be the movement of a person who intended to kill him. And so it begins. They could be going for someone else, but still, Jean silently picked up Bradamanti. The footsteps got closer, louder. They stopped in front of the room adjacent to Jin's. One more step and it would be Jin's room. He's going for me. Is he bold or stupid? He just comes at me like that. Or did he go crazy from lack of sleep? Jean stood and lowered his stance while firmly gripping his sword. As soon as the visitor came inside his cell, Jean planned on immediately striking. The man outside emitted a strong metallic stench, the smell of blood. And then, Jean heard an unexpected voice. Wait. Can we talk for a sec? A husky voice. It was Dante. What the? Why is Dante coming to me? Suddenly, all kinds of thoughts went through his mind. Does he know who I am? If he does, did Baradin tell him? Did he come to settle our anticipated battle without waiting? Or none of that, and just coincidentally came here? Jean could hear his heartbeat. If Dante was in a rested state, Jean couldn't win. But he couldn't decline the fight just because he was tired either. Talk. Jean concealed his nervousness and calmly asked. Yes. Jean thought for a bit before opening the door. Come in. Thanks, thud. Ha. As soon as he came in, Dante kneeled on one knee, as if he couldn't control his body. While Jin's eyes widened, Dante spoke. I apologize for the request on our first meeting, but please, let me sleep. In exchange, I will guard you so that you can sleep. What do you mean? Just as I said. I can't endure much longer. I must sleep for at least an hour, so I won't go crazy. If it was like this, his limit was different. Like Jean, he kept his eyes wide open as he waited for potential assassins. But why me? What is there to trust about me? Yesterday, I watched you. Unlike the others, you seemed like a real knight. Out of everyone, just you. Which is why I can trust. Zzzzzzzzz thud. Zzzzzzzzz, zzzzzzzzz. Jean could only be surprised. What in the world is this guy? The audacity. On some aspects, he's worse than Baradin. There would be no problem slitting Dante's throat while he was vulnerable. He was fast asleep on the spot. Does the Hiran clan not do insomnia training? Either that or more contenders attacked him. Shuffle, shuffle. However, before his frustrations receded, Jean heard evident footsteps from people who tried to sneak and conceal them. It was the gang that waited for Dante to be knocked out, and at that moment, Jean finally realized Dante's pungent metallic smell. He came here after fending off the many enemies that went into his room. Unlike my room, which had no visitors. Making the Hiran clan's next patriarch indebted to him wouldn't be bad at all. Jean covered Bradamanti with aura and prepared to fight the aggressors. Chapter 95. The Cosmos Arena, 6, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 95, The Cosmos Arena, 6, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukito 4, No. 5. Seeing that they poorly concealed their presence, Jean knew they weren't trained assassins. Additionally, their breaths were hoarse, which meant that they were very nervous. They would still be able to deal with Dante, who was exhausted to death. But they weren't enough to take care of Jean. I don't need to fight them in such a cramped space. I don't want to contaminate my living space with bloodstains. Stomp. Jean intentionally stomped towards the cell door, and the assassin stopped in place. Before his enemies could exchange signals. This isn't Paul Mick's room, slash. Jean shot out like a bullet towards the cell door and slashed the assassins near the hallway wall. He didn't want to send them back with only severed fingers or hands. He had already done that on the first day to warn the rest of the attackers. The next time someone came to his room, they would not be losing a body part, but their life. All. Hearing the swing of a sword, the man behind the victim screamed instinctively. As Jean predicted, there were a total of 5 enemies. And since one just died, they were now down to 4. Amongst them, none saw how the first one died. After his battles with Elisa, Jin's swordsmanship improved significantly. Get him. Stab. His second strike exactly pierced the target's heart. The other 3 ran in simultaneously, but their movements were stiff due to nervousness. Coating the blade with venom didn't matter if the sword didn't hit anything. Jean easily dodged each poison-gleaming blade and continued to attack. We are not here to attack you. I know. You came to kill Paul Mick. But since you came to my room, it's the end for you. Every time Bradamanti's blade danced through air, blood flew and splattered. People in adjacent rooms stuck out their heads to watch the spectacle. However, they immediately returned to hiding, afraid that they would be associated with the fight. As Jean tried to clean up the rest of the assassins, something shining at the edge of the hallway caught the corner of his eye. He heard the pull of a bowstring and soon realized that the glimmer came from the light hitting an arrowhead. They even prepared a ranged attacker. Or maybe, these guys were bait to begin with, and they planned to shoot Dante when he comes out. Tang! He barely deflected the arrow. If he hadn't caught sight of the glimmer earlier, he would have gotten injured. Subsequently, more arrows flew. It looked like they prepared at least 10 archers. However, Jean had expected this much, so he used a corpse as a meat shield. Thud, 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 thud. As the arrows pierced through the corpse, Jean could see the arrowhead covered in yellow poison. These bastards, at this point, he was furious. Although they weren't his mortal enemies, he really wanted to know why they were going so far to get rid of some kids. I know that this contest is all about dirty, underhanded tricks, but this is too much. And these guys are too organized despite being average contenders. He threw the corpse away and ran towards the archers, jumping from wall to wall. He planned on leaving one alive for questioning. With what intention did they attack? And who ordered them to do this? Just as the first 5 had poor swordsmanship, the archers didn't have great aim. Things would have been different if Jean moved in a straight line, but instead, his sporadic movements prevented them from hitting him. I need to wrap it up ASAP. Someone might attack Dante while I'm not in my room. As he quickly closed the gap, his sword began to glow. Some of them began to run away, and Jean let them. He personally wanted to chase and execute them, but Dante's safety was his priority. Jean could kill them anytime, but getting the Hyran clan's prospective successor indebted to him was a rare opportunity. Slash. Slice. Heads fell to the ground. He didn't even need 10 seconds to kill 3 of the 4 who didn't escape. Save me. Shut up. Bam. Instead of attacking with his sword, Jean threw his fist at the last archer, rendering him unconscious. Soon after, he dragged his newly acquired hostage back to his room. The spectators who watched from their rooms didn't even make a sound. Phew. Hey. Wake up. Slap. 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 As soon as he returned to his room, Jean slapped the hostage awake. Meanwhile, Dante was still fast asleep. Yook. Burk. Alright, starting now, I'm going to ask you something, and you'll have to answer every time. If you answer to my satisfaction, I will send you back. If not, I'll send you to the sky. And if you don't answer within 3 seconds, you'll also go to the sky. Understood. He nodded. First, who are you guys? Pirates. I'll explain more. Please lower your sword. We're Joe's underlings. He's the winner of last year's Arena Rumble. Second, why are you going after Paul Mick? In such an organized way too. Captain Joe said that Paul Mick was an important figure in a big clan, so he told us to capture him. Did he say which clan? He said that it was probably our Runcandle. Jean instinctively grinned. You do this shit despite thinking that he's a Runcandle. Well, they say that ignorance is courage when combined with confidence. Why are your arrowheads poisoned, then? He asked for a hostage, not a corpse. We have an antidote. Then, third. Where is Joe? Is he also in the arena? No, he came as a spectator this year, and he only ordered us to capture Paul Mick. Dante entered this competition in Jin's past life as well. And that time, he became these guys' hostage. The Hyran clan were able to retrieve Dante after giving them an inconceivable amount of money and solemnly swearing that they wouldn't take revenge. Like a butterfly effect, the Hyran clan faced internal failure and many consequences. Jean didn't know much about the backstory of the clan's internal failures due to its secrecy, but he knew that he had just changed history just by saving Dante. Just as this guy said, Dante was kidnapped last time. Then these pirate fuckers held him hostage and took a big bite out of the herons. Even if they were a renowned clan, if an important figure were to get caught, the clan could only be dragged along. Especially when the hostage was their next patriarch. Of course, if it were the Runcandle clan, they would just tell the pirates to kill the hostage and would proceed to slaughter the kidnappers, their families, acquaintances, and even unrelated individuals. Everyone would die. That was the Runcandle method. Strikingly different from other big clans. Alright, perfect. I like it. I'll spare you. Thank you. Instead, leave 2 fingers here. Ha. Just as I said. Leave 2 fingers here. If not, leave your head here. Losing one's fingers was better than getting beheaded. Craw. Ultimately, the pirate trudged back to his room after blowing off some information and leaving some of his fingers in Jin's room. The young Runcandle sat back down and waited for Dante to wake up. Reaper scans Dante woke up after 17 hours, around dinner time. And as soon as he awoke, Jean explained everything that happened since he passed out. He went on about how much he did to keep Dante's ass alive, and how he captured one guy and found out about one that eyed Joe as well as his gang of pirate gangsters. So they mistook me for a run candle and tried to capture me. That one that eyed Joe guy is definitely crazy. I find all of this absurd, laughable. A run candle. Absurd. He let out a deep laugh and shook his head. Seeing Jin's soulless eyes, Dante continued. Ah, since you are my savior, I must explain. As they suspected, I am a noble. Although I'm not a run candle. I'm a little embarrassed to tell you my clan's name. Will you understand if I just say that I'm a noble from the Vermont Empire? Dante thought that Jin's attitude would change if he revealed that he was a Hiran. While traveling with an alias, whenever his status got revealed, he had often seen his friends suddenly act like servants. Noticing Dante's intention, Jin cleared his throat and contained his laughter. Well, I don't need to tell him that I'm Jin Runcandle. He'll find out soon enough. And Baradin's fat mouth will blabber about it anyway. Jin nodded. Ahem. I understand. Everyone has that moment when they want to conceal themselves. I appreciate it. Anyways, I'm very thankful that I came to you. If I kept fighting them, I wouldn't be able to fend them off for so long. I don't know how to repay this debt. Saying this, Dante's eyes were filled with genuine gratitude. You probably do not understand the great feat you have accomplished. A knight like you doesn't seem to want capital. I cannot express my gratitude with one great sword or anything material. No, it's not much. Inside, Jin felt good. He certainly knew that he successfully planted indebtedness inside Dante. Yes, yes. I don't need a sword or money. I like the guilty, indebted heart that you have towards me. Dante concluded his thoughts and turned towards Jin. The best way is to offer my life to you. From now on, whenever you are in danger, whenever you need me, I will fight by your side with my life. I swear by my name. Do whatever you want. Anyways, as we promised, I'm gonna sleep, so just protect me well. Wake me up when group 13 starts. Understood. Ah, and me protecting you right now is unrelated to my solemn swear. Yeah. Zzzzzzzzz. Jin instantly fell asleep just like Dante did in the morning. And as he stared at Jin who slept soundly, Dante thought to himself. Now that I think about it, I don't even know this guy's name. I hope we meet in the finals. Whatever the result, there is much to tell my parents. Chapter 96. The Cosmos Arena, 7, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 96, The Cosmos Arena, 7, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukito Okada. Jin's battles the next day were not that different from Dante's. His opponents were introduced with pretentious names like Helia's Demon King or something, but it took only 7 seconds to kill them. Once again, the audience went quiet, and Baradin led the crowd to cheer. This year's arena finalists must be those two. That Jean Grey fellow is incredible, but it'd be hard for the Runcandle provisional flag. Bearer. Who are you betting on? Jean Grey. Or Paul Mick? I'm still with Paul Mick. After seeing yesterday's fight, I contacted the main house and brought all of the money. You should bet on Paul Mick too. He's a Runcandle. A Runcandle. Who could beat a Runcandle when it comes to the sword? Good point. Jean showed off his amazing sword skill, but the nobles in the audience were already certain that Dante was the Runcandle clan's provisional flag. Bearer. It was no longer just a rumor to them. More and more money accumulated onto Dante's pool, and not that many bet their money on Jean. Thanks to Jean, the other contestants naturally became irrelevant. The previous year's finalists, victors, and veterans, who were supposed to lead the event, seemed underwhelming. Damn it. Those kids are making it hard to touch some money this year. Most of the contestants were murder enjoyers, but as much as they enjoyed killing, what they wanted most was money. More than the grand prize of 1,000 gold coins for the competitors, receiving a portion of the pool from the host was much more important. Should we just kill him off before the rest of the preliminaries? I think we can get him if the veterans band together. The distributed prize money for the winner would increase as more bets accumulated on one person. Others' fortune could only be a pain for the veterans. Hold on. Did you not see the one-eyed pirates get destroyed? This year's contest is those kids' stage. If you want to save your life, you gotta stay out of it. God damn it, since the veterans' mood was this sour, the other contestants had to team up amongst themselves. Until the end of the preliminaries, let's fight minimally. That way, we can come back next year and earn money. We can also bully the newbies too. The veterans' plan was to manipulate the victory. They planned to stage ambiguous battles without killing each other. That way, they could guarantee easy money by distributing the bets. The guide relayed all this information to Cosmos. Ha, so they're plotting something, eh? Bullshitting the fight to bathe in some money, what should we do? If the competition gets boring, then we'll have some problems next year. Cosmos scratched his gold tooth with his index finger and shook his head. Change the preliminaries around. Make sure that Paul Mick and Jean Grey don't awkwardly meet and fight each other in the quarter-finals of something. They have to meet in the finals. Are you sure? The most important part of the show is to give what the audience wants. They want this duel more than the Slaughterfest, so it's all we can do. Instead, make sure they can't bet anymore, and increase the other guy's distribution pay. Then who should meet Jean Grey and Paul Mick throughout the rest of the preliminaries? Stick them with the one-eyed pirates. We can't let the other veteran contenders die, since we gotta use them next year. There's going to be a lot of dissent from one-eyed Joe if he hears about it. Cosmos burst into laughter. You idiot. If Paul Mick really is Gene Runcandle, do you think he'll live? The one-eyed pirates were done for as soon as they pissed him off. Don't worry about it. Good point. Reaper scans The remaining rounds in the preliminaries proceeded quickly. As much as it was staged, it wasn't as bloody or brutal as the previous years. The veterans just broke some bones and effortlessly wrapped up their eventless battles, causing angry shouts to ensue from the spectators. They could tell that the fights were staged. Despite this, however, no one left their audience seats. They knew that, after all of the boring battles, they would be able to see the duel between Jean and Dante. And every time Jean or Dante faced a one-eyed pirate in the arena. Oh! Paul Mick. Paul Mick. Although neither of the crowd favorites really did anything special, the crowd would go wild. The two didn't even need to brutally murder their opponents. The two fellows finished their battles within one or two swings of the sword. From the preliminary rounds all the way to the semi-finals, all of their battles easily ended like that. And finally came the finals. They finally face each other today. The entirety of the audience awaited their appearance. Baradin had come out to watch without sleeping a wink due to anxiety. Who do you think will win between those two? Baradin asked his bodyguards. Paul Mick. Seeing the previous battles, I think that Paul Mick's swordsmanship is better. You think? Youngest master, what are your predictions? I bet on Jean. About 100,000 gold, How much? 100,000. You've bet too much. If Jean Grey wins, would Cosmos be able to match that amount? The odds are 3-1. I don't think such a pirate would have that much money. No, they're bigger than we thought. They can pay as much as 300,000 gold. If they sell some of their islands, that is. Oh, they're starting. Cosmos walked out to the middle of the arena. Thank you for waiting, ladies and gentlemen. I greet you once again today. I, Pirate King Cosmos, thank you for being here for the grand finals. Cosmos bowed towards the audience. Woo-woo. Many cheered after seeing him introduce himself. Fuck off and just bring out the kids. Yeah. Just proceed with the finals, you dumb pirate fuck. And there were also those who swore at him. Cosmos could only feel disappointment. Usually, the audience would shower him with cheers and flowers for hosting such a great show. These stupid noble bastards. When was it that you gave me a thumbs up for inventing the best show in the world? Starting next year, I'm gonna raise the entrance fee. Cosmos stood up, hiding his dissent. Yes, yes. I understand. Paul Mick and Jean Grey. I'm sure you are itching to see their battle. Why don't we call them, then? Powell. Mick. Paul Mick. Dante was more popular than Jean. It was unavoidable, since the audience thought that he was a runcandle. As Dante entered the arena, there were many who screamed their hearts out for him. Alright, and his opponent. The nameless teenage swordsman, Jean Grey. As Jean entered the stadium, the cheers were significantly quieter. Instead, there were many who had their hands together on their forehead, praying for their desired outcome. They were the gambling addicts who saw the 3-fold gambling multiplier and brought all of their life savings to use for betting. Despite their misprediction of Dante being the runcandle's provisional flag bearer, people definitely thought that he would defeat Jean. Until now, Dante had freely and skillfully handled his sword and crescent slashes, and Jean had not. So, the people who bet on Jean prayed for his victory. Jean Grey. Let's go. Baradin stood up and screamed with bloodshot eyes. Let's go. Other audience members who bet on Jean began to scream as well. BVEC, go where, you sick fuck. Of course, Jean didn't give them a single glance and walked to his side of the arena. He felt significant pressure. Not because of the gamblers who bet their lives on the line, but because he was uncertain if he could actually defeat Dante. Jean Runcandle and Dante Hiran. The two faced each other with a calm expression. Unlike their other fights, they purposefully left 30 steps between each other. One more step would be within striking range. They were standing still, but a crippling tension stifled the two contenders. As the audience went silent, Cosmos opened his mouth once more. Oh my, I didn't think that my arena would become like this. This is like watching a dueling championship between famous clans. Then, let's begin the final battle. 2. The pirates blew the horns, and Cosmos ran out. The two contenders slowly unsheathed their swords. Simultaneously, they conjured their aura, and their swords began to glow. There's no opportunity to strike. Jean could not make the first move as per usual. Even without clashing swords, he knew that Dante's swordsmanship was better than his. He felt it ever since he first watched Dante's fights. As for Dante, he couldn't strike first as well, but not because he thought Jean was better. Strangely, I sense something ominous. I don't know what it is, but something's up. After hitting 7. It was the first time Dante felt uncertainty while in the presence of a sub-.6. And he fell into a dilemma. Does he use all his energy to finish the battle quickly, or does he observe his opponent and slowly wear him out? To begin with, he never entertained the idea of losing, never thought that he would lose to Jean. This sense of foreboding must mean that you prepared something to face me. In that case, I should take it slow. Thinking that he should be extremely cautious, Dante stepped forward. He chose to take precaution instead of closing the gap and finishing the battle quickly. At that moment, Jean smiled in his mind. I guess you chose to carefully take me on. It means that my chances of defeating you just increased by 10%. Jean had already planned a method to defeat Dante. He, as well, never considered losing this fight. Chapter 97. The Cosmos Arena, 8, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 97, The Cosmos Arena, 8, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukit Okada, one step forward. Jean matched Dante's movement and closed the gap a little more. Subsequently, Dante took another step, and Jean mirrored it again. Prudently searching for an opportunity to attack. This is more nerve-wracking than I thought. 5 more steps and Dante will start his ATA, HMF. Jean unconsciously stopped. He had a strong feeling that Dante's attack would begin earlier than expected. Left. Right. His eyes flickered to the left, then to the right. Then, as he focused his attention back to the middle, Dante had disappeared. Swoosh. And the familiar sound of a sword traveling through the air went to his ear. Burk. Surprised, Jean raised Bradamante, and Dante smiled as he flew towards Jean. Clang. The impact that traveled through the sword hilt was incredible, as if an explosion occurred within his sword. Within the heavy blow was an energy as sharp as shattered obsidian. If Jean even lacked a little less hip and lower body strength, his stance would have collapsed immediately. He let out a sigh of relief. Then, he calmly took steps towards the left to retreat from Dante. I tried it, thinking that there was a possibility of it working. But as expected, it didn't. Disappointed, Dante licked his lips. Jean cracked an awkward smile instead of responding. He's faster than I thought. The battle could have finished on the first sword swing. Jin's entire body was covered in goosebumps, and his back was covered in sweat. All the while, Dante looked very carefree. This is like Lady Elisa's top speed. If it weren't for the 110 battles that we had, there would be no way I blocked that attack. What kind of observation game is this, crazy bastard? You tried to finish it in a single strike. Although a little surprised, he could feel that he improved and grew a lot. Additionally. And if this is his top speed, it's super winnable. He was certain. With this certainty, Jean also thought that, if Dante could attack any faster, there was no way of winning. Whoom. As Jean prepared to swing his sword, Dante's blade was covered in a more potent aura. If I can't win with speed, I'll do it with strength. Just what I wanted. Jean had no time to respond. Dante had already begun to swing his sword, and Jean was still gathering his aura to defend. He was too slow. Boom. Ba-boom. Boom. Every time their blades met, sounds of explosion echoed. Instead of 2 sharp weapons, it sounded as if 2 blunt weapons were hitting each other. Hooyah! Is this really a fight between kids? Compliments could be heard all over the audience. They all expected a great battle between the two, but they didn't think it would be this entertaining. Baradin, oblivious of his sweaty hands, clenched his fists. In the beginning, Jean looked as if he was being pushed to a corner. But as each second passed, he caught up to Dante's tempo. When they were about 20 swings into the fight, the two looked evenly matched. That was his top speed. Jean was certain of it after matching swords multiple times. No matter how talented Dante was, there was no way a 19-year-old could surpass the speed and strength of a former Vermont Special Forces agent. All Jean had to do now was to hold on. Dante only increases his speed at strategic moments to ration his energy. I just need to barely match his tempo until he gets exhausted. Jin's plan to take down Dante was simple. He would utilize the only trait that he had an advantage in against Dante. Stamina. I felt it when he came to my room. Dante has shockingly great skill, but his stamina is very low. Dante's body didn't complement his skill, and that was his weakness. He was 19 but looked around 13 or 14. He had a very small physique, which made it hard to believe that he was 19. He could raise his power and strength using his aura, but altering his endurance was beyond his range of ability. If his stamina were as great as his sword skill, then he would have never requested Jean for help. On the other hand, Jean was blessed with the Runcandle clan's renowned physique. His physical strength, endurance, recovery rate, and agility surpassed most if not all human beings. He could survive the nights in the arena without Dante. But the same could not be said for Dante. The key is how fast Dante realizes that my stamina is far greater than his. Dante's stamina was incomparable to Jin's. Dante had always attempted to overcome his weakness, dripping blood and sweat. He also executed inconceivable amounts of training. Which was why it was hard for Dante to realize that he still lacked one major trait compared to the 16-year-old in front of him. Outclassed by innate talent. You're holding on well. If you have something coming, you should bring out all of it now. Starting now, I'm gonna get a little faster. If I bring out everything I have, you'll get depressed, idiot. Your jokes are pretty average, just like you. I like that. Slash. Dante's blade slit Jin's thigh. It wasn't a deep cut, but blood still splattered. Jin gritted his teeth. It was close. If it were a little deeper, it would have been fatal. I'm gonna have to let him get some shallow cuts on me. The problem was the need to dodge every lethal swing. Since the tempo was faster, Dante's stamina would deplete faster. However, as Jin received more shallow wounds, he also got gradually exhausted. Losing blood meant that he was also losing stamina. Conversely, I can't give him a single scratch until he gets tired. Still, with hopes of victory, Jin gritted his teeth and kept dodging. As long as he maintained his current speed, he extrapolated that he could continue with the battle for at least an hour. But that guy will go for the win at some point. Dante wasn't an idiot. Although it looked as if Jin was losing and Dante was carefree, there was no way Dante would be oblivious of Jin's plan. Ultimately, he would find a way to outplay Jin's defense plan. Evading that attack was crucial. Another cut on the shoulder. And while dodging a storm of jabs, Jin got a cut on his hand, almost letting go of his sword. He backed off, tore off a part of his coat with his teeth, and wrapped his hand to cover the wound. Dante tilted his head in confusion. He's done for. End him. Just a little more, Paul Mick. All of the spectators who had bet their money on Dante began to shout and scream. To their eyes, Jin looked like he was getting single-handedly beaten, so they thought the battle was soon to be over. However, Dante finally realized it. He knows that he has more stamina than me, so he's dragging out the battle. And finally I know, that you were also using an alias. Jin Runcandle. If he was a Runcandle, he would have an inconceivable endurance beyond Dante's knowledge. Putting aside the cuts on the thigh, shoulder, and hand, if Jin possessed a normal body, he should have fainted during the shockwaves from the clashing of swords. Dante mouthed Jin's real name, and Jin smiled. So you figured it out. Who? Jin felt that Dante's breaths were getting hoarse. His own breaths weren't the same as in the beginning of the fight, but he still had more breathing room than Dante. I guess it's my turn now. As the audience's energy and screams continued to fill the arena, this time, Jin charged towards Dante. The spectators, who had their money on Jin, stood and screamed. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Jin, who had been on the defensive the entire fight, began to attack. And Dante began to look back to see where it all went wrong. Damn it. I should have finished him off at the beginning. He didn't need much time to make that conclusion. If he didn't have that sense of foreboding at the beginning, Dante would have already won. Then what was that feeling? My instincts were telling me that a careless attack would be dangerous. Dante could not work out that what he sensed was due to Jin's two suppressed abilities, spiritual energy and magic. If Jin used those abilities, Dante wouldn't even stand a chance. An inherent terror that came from a stronger opponent. Clang. Clang. Jin swung Bradamanti with all his might and began his attack. Dante's stance staggered, urging him to back off. Jin only did a single movement in each attack. The swing he practiced 10,000 times with maximum effort every day. One that he could replicate 3,000 times. Jean Runcandle, you monster. You still had this much energy left. On top of that, how is a simple swing so heavy? Jean continued with the same vertical swing, and Dante could not easily escape from it. Each time Bradamanti fell on him, it felt as if a massive wall pressed upon him. He had neither the time nor strength to change his stance. At this rate, in a few minutes, Dante would experience an embarrassing defeat to the same swing. So he had to come to a decision. Do I have to use the clan's secret technique? Unlike Jean, who hadn't learned any secret decisive killing moves, Dante had already mastered multiple secret techniques from his clan. These attacks had the potential to flip the battle completely. He could easily use it with his remaining energy. However, he was faced with a dilemma. But I don't want to kill you. If he used his secret technique, then Jean would certainly die. Which prevented him from using it. Although they had only met a few days ago, Jean was a very important person to him. A savior. A worthy opponent. A mountain that the Hiran clan must overcome. The Runcandle clan's youngest son. A friend. Dante made a conflicted expression while sorting out his thoughts, and Jean knew exactly what he was feeling. He's hesitating because he doesn't want to kill me. If not, he would have gone for the win by now. Clink. Jean sheathed his sword and looked Dante in the eye before speaking. I am Jean Runcandle. Don't go easy on me, Dante Hiran. Reaper Scans. Chapter 98. The Cosmos Arena, 9, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 98, The Cosmos Arena, 9, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukit Okada. The two had stopped moving, but the audience continued to shout and scream. Even though the tables had turned significantly, with hope in their bets, the people contributed to the loud noise. Jin's words were overpowered by the wild crowd, and the two just stood and stared. Don't go easy on me. Hearing those words, Dante felt embarrassed. Yeah. It could look like that. It could look like I'm going easy on you. In whatever situation, refusing to hurt the opponent meant failure as a warrior. That was disgraceful while confronting an enemy, and even more disrespectful in front of a worthy opponent. Is there anything more embarrassing than going easy on an opponent that I value? The problem wasn't whether or not to use his secret technique. It was whether or not he would try his best without hesitation. Ending the battle without doing so would be pointless regardless if he won or lost. I apologize for showing such disgrace. Let's start anew. Dante pointed his sword at Jean, meaning to tap swords to represent respect for each other. Jean used his sword to tap Dante's, emitting a soft musical sound of metal hitting metal. And at that moment, they experienced a weird feeling. The shouts and screams grew faint, like an echo traveling in a canyon. Their surroundings blurred and gradually became dark. In their world, it was just the two of them, standing in front of each other. They both trusted that either one of them would put up an exhilarating fight. They didn't need to talk to share this feeling. It was a common hallucination that swordmasters enter when dueling their rival. Then let's begin. Phew. Who? They simultaneously took a deep breath. It was difficult to tell who struck first as they clashed swords. Unlike their respectful sword taps in the beginning, the impact of their blades caused blinding sparks to scatter. Sounds akin to explosions, the screech of metallic friction, and wind echoing throughout, aura flickering everywhere. As if his exhaustion was a lie, Dante swung his sword more energetically than before. Jean, as well, channeled the rest of his energy in his attacks with a shout. Dash! Because of the impact, blood and sand splattered and sprayed throughout the arena. In a moment where they should be cheering, the crowd grew quiet from shock. In their eyes, the two fighting teams looked like giants, and they didn't dare to blink lest they would miss a moment of the fight. It had been 10 years since the arena had opened, but they never had a moment like this. The spectators, who originally came to watch a cruel slaughter fest, were now blessed with a spectacle. They were witnessing a duel between two talented knights. At this point, the gambling aspect of the arena became irrelevant. Of course, once the battle finished, some would be laughing, and some would be crying. Still, as of this moment, everyone was astonished by the fight. Maybe I kind of underestimated Dante. I was sure he was exhausted, but where did this power come from? Blood dripped from Jin's lip. He was too busy deflecting Dante's attacks to notice that he had been biting his lip. Dante's feel for the sword was a God-given talent, but his strength and stamina were painfully average. No, how much effort did this undersized boy, who was born with below-average physical traits, put into training? How many times did he kneel in despair before overcoming his fatal flaw? Those who trained until death could notice the amount of effort in others. As for Jin in his past life, he remembered the seemingly eternal hell of being unable to overcome the one-star wall despite having the Runcandle's blessed body. So he could easily picture Dante's past. Him curled up like a little ball in a dark training room, staring at his small and frail body in the mirror with distress. He who trained and whipped himself until he was on the verge of death and exhaustion. And in all those moments, he never let go of his sword. Just like his own past life. However, unlike the past Jin, Dante persisted through each hardship. Makes me shed a tear. Dante's hoarse and husky voice was born from all of the shouts and screams he channeled in order to overcome his challenges. Shudder, shudder. Dante began to tremble. From wandering through hopelessness to becoming the prospective successor of the Hiran clan and having the motivation to try harder and harder after each tiring day. Simply because he was one with his sword. If he weren't, even if he were a noble in an empire, life would merely be a boring stage play. Dante was like that. Jin Runcandle. Runcandle's 13th young master. As each strike of the blade vibrated throughout his body, Dante thought about Jin. You were born with everything you needed. The bloodline of every knight's dream. A durable body that came from the blessed bloodline. Jin, who became a 5-star at the age of 15 and was now 16, could face Dante head-on. The most talented among the talented. Why am I feeling desperation from you, then? Despite being born into a world considered a heaven for knights, you act as if you've been watching this heavenly world from afar. Why are you so desperate? Why, despite being born with everything, do you have such emotions dyed in your blade? Is it because being the heir to the throne is far from reach as the youngest son? No, you are not an earthly being to fuss about hierarchy. Is it just to become the best in the world? Or is it because you had lived many days of hopelessness and despair? Are you saying you had more days of anguish than I did? Who are you, Jin Runcandle? No, it doesn't matter who you are. Today is the day I prove that my efforts weren't in vain. Crackle. As he exerted force into his sword's handle, Dante could feel cracks crawling throughout the bones in his hands. Excruciating pain traversed his body, yet he didn't falter. Instead, he smiled. Crack. Every time he swung his sword, his bones would suffer from more fissures, but his movements didn't change in the slightest, not even his shoulders, chest, waist, and feet. Although his stance began to fall apart, Dante did not despise his weak body. I'm just fighting because I love to. Dante was smiling as Jin began to dominate the battle. He knew he couldn't do anything about it. Dante's body is falling apart. While Jin felt the sword closer than his skin, he could feel Dante's exhaustion through each clash of their swords. Once he felt that his victory was within reach, Jin felt anger more than joy. Why are you not using your clan's decisive killing move? Are you hiding another skill that I don't know about? He was wrong. Dante staggered back, looking as if he were a beast that had used all of its energy. Although his eyes glimmered with a burning fighting spirit, he was truly on the verge of fainting. You definitely had the chance. You still don't hesitate to slash me, so why? It was now Jin's turn to decide. Do I slash him, or do I not? He didn't need to think for long. Putting away my sword would mean disrespecting you. Clang. Jin swung a horizontal swipe. Dante deflected the blow, but his body shook. Barely maintaining his balance, Dante felt more bones breaking in his body. Before he could turn his head and track Jin's movements, Bradamanti was already on its second strike. Thankfully, there was hesitation in the blade. You bastard. Why? Gritting his teeth, Jin changed the trajectory of his swing, which was supposed to slash through Dante's chest. Because he forced his sword to move unnaturally, his hands cramped up. Bradamanti flew out of Jin's hands, and Dante aimed his sword towards Jin's throat. It looked like it was purposefully aimed. However, before he could even thrust it, his body lost all control. In fact, Dante had already lost consciousness before Jin's second attack. Thud. Dante fell on the dirt floor. Jin rapidly blinked and breathed coarsely as he stared down at him. Time seemed to stop in the ensuing silence. At that moment, the audience held their breath. And as for Jin, he had many complex feelings. Victory aside, millions of complicated emotions heated his body. He prayed that Dante didn't die. However, he was certain that he died, but he felt a little scared to check. Instinctively, he sat on the ground beside his body and checked for his pulse. Jin couldn't feel anything due to his own blood pumping through his fingers. We have to call a doctor. The moment he tried to yelp for a doctor or anyone who could treat Dante, an audience member jumped out of the spectator area and into the arena. Young master. Bodyguards followed the teenager into the arena. Baradin Zipfel's hands glowed with a warm, green light as he sprinted on the dirt. He was already preparing a healing spell halfway through the battle, worried that he would lose either one of his friends. Baradin. Don't worry, I'll save him. Baradin kneeled beside Dante and chanted a spell. Then he cast 2 more. Baradin had cast 3 healing spells consecutively, displaying his insane talent for magic. However, at this very moment, Jin was only concerned about Dante. Baradin's expression didn't look great as he chanted the spell. Not even 10 seconds had passed, yet his entire body was drenched in sweat. Jin wondered how much mana he channeled. Even though he was using a spell that could instantly heal a fatal wound, Dante's eyes were not opening. While Jin and Baradin's hearts ached, the young Zipfel lowered his hands and shook his head. Shit. This isn't something that could be healed with magic. All of Dante's insides were messed up. Not a single bone was intact. In fact, his broken body was burning with aura. Not even Holy King Michaelan could revive him with a miracle. Jin. Baradin whispered Jin's name. Baradin, Dante is, listen well. This will stay between the 3 of us. Following his words, Baradin revealed something from his cloak. Reaper scans. Chapter 99. The Cosmos Arena, 10, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Volume 4 Chapter 99, The Cosmos Arena, 10, Translator, J, Proofreader, Yukito Okada, Young Master, that's. As soon as they saw the object that Baradin revealed, the guards' faces turned white in fear. The young Zipfel put his index finger over his puckered lips. Quiet. And use your capes to cover us up. The guards bit their lips and surrounded Baradin, Jin, and Dante with their capes. The crowd began to chatter, whispering amongst themselves at the sudden turn of events. No one detested Baradin's actions after seeing the Zipfel's insignia on the guards' capes. The Zipfel clan. That fellow was a Zipfel. Oh, what will you do? When that Zipfel cheered for Jean Grey, you swore at him to cheer for Paul Mick. Yeah, maybe I'll go home first. As soon as the Zipfel coat of arms was revealed, everyone, including the pirates, became as quiet and calm as a flock of sheep. Even Cosmos, the host, did not dare to step into the ring to intervene with the current state of events. Shit's going down. Did he come to kidnap Paul Mick because he's a runcandle? Damn it. One wrong move and I'll be saying goodbye to my pirate life. I must act professionally. Everyone, close your eyes and plug your ears. Cosmos shouted. The charismatic host who warmly welcomed his audience suddenly ordered the sealing of the senses. It was a very laughable situation, but the audience actually listened to his orders. Not a single person smiled or laughed. The Zipful clan was not a force to be reckoned with. That fellow. He knows what's going on. Maybe I can discount 100,000 gold from my winnings. Baradin had pulled out some kind of gemstone. At first glance, it was a spherical ruby. However, upon closer look, it had a much deeper shade of red, as if it were blood compressed together. And they detected an ineffably weird energy from it. That's. Jean had also seen it from somewhere. But he could not exactly remember what it was. It wasn't something he saw physically, but something he saw through a textbook when he was a student. It's numerous blood. The moment Baradin divulged its name, Jin's jaw dropped. Numerusal, the god of hope who disappeared because of a few incidents before the rise of the Holy Kingdom of Vankila. All numerous left before disappearing were 8 teardrops and 100 drops of blood, and humans led a bloody history in order to collect these artifacts. Numerous tear was an item that could resurrect the dead. On the other hand, resurrecting the dead wasn't easily possible with numerous blood. However, it could heal any injury or sickness with ease. So far, 70 drops of blood had been used, and the rest were still missing. It was the most pursued artifact at first, but as it became more rare, its existence became a myth. And one of those mythical objects was shining in front of him. What? Using this on Dante now? Although numerous blood was a tier lower than the tier, it could not be replicated anywhere. The runcandles and Zipfuls were still searching with bloodshot eyes for more copies. And the Zipfuls had one of them. In fact, it wasn't even the patriarch who had it. It was in the hands of Baradin, who came out for a trip. Jean could not understand. It implied that the Zipful clan exclusively reserved the blood for Baradin. The world's greatest clan, the Zipfuls, only had 2 of the gemstones. Let's keep this between us. Me, you, and Dante. Jean couldn't ask why he was going to use it on Dante. From a rational perspective, Baradin's actions were unreasonable. Although the Hyran clan was smaller than the Zipful clan, they were still competing with each other. And Dante was the prospective successor of that clan. As of the moment, Dante's death was the best-case scenario for Baradin. However, I also feel the same. Although Dante's death is beneficial for the runcandles, since he put away his sword at the last moment, Baradin grinned. I'm sure I don't need to explain to you why I'm doing this. Baradin placed numerous blood near Dante's mouth and spoke. Using magic, he cracked the gemstone, and a red mist emerged. The crimson clouds of energy slowly slid like water into Dante's mouth. Oh, and no need to thank me. Losing a rival is as sad as losing a friend, am I right? Flinch. As soon as numerous blood entered his body, Dante reacted. They couldn't see what was happening within him, but his pale face gradually reclaimed its normal color. Baradin Zipful. I didn't think you would do something like this. Jean never thought that he would be so unpredictable. Doing a massive favor for another person who was no different than an enemy. He wasn't an easily judgeable character. While Jean trapped himself in complicated thought, he had one clear emotion. He has a cool side to him. Pwah. Dante breathed hoarsely, as if he came out of water. Shocked, he looked at his own body in amazement. He knew that he escaped from the verge of death. How in the world? Let's have a drink after the closing ceremony, Dante. You're gonna tag along, right, Jean? Don't say no. And whenever we meet anywhere, it would be nice if you noticed me. Jean remembered dismissing Baradin at the Runcandle banquet. Jean chuckled. Sure. As Dante slowly stood, Cosmos looked around and concluded that the issue was resolved. Then he knew what the three teens needed as of the current moment. To make it look as if nothing had happened. In reality, the audience didn't know what transpired underneath the cloaks. Just assumptions that Baradin treated Dante with his magic. However, everyone questioned the young Zipfel's actions upon helping Paul Mick, who was assumed to be a Runcandle. Still, no one expressed curiosity as they valued their own life. Alrighty. That was a heated battle. The victor is the nameless teenage swordsman, Jean Grey. Ladies and gentlemen. Please give them a round of applause. ****** Reaper scans ******. The closing ceremony began that night. The arena that was once filled with murder and assassination became a place of celebration. Whenever they had the chance, the surviving contestants sprayed wine on the floor to honor the dead contenders. Usually, everyone would start stuffing their faces with great amounts of food. However, people merely drank wine, not daring to eat before a Zipfel. The victor, Jean Grey. Please step forward. Jean stepped towards the podium made out of stacked wine bottles. Cosmos waited in front of him with a trophy made out of shark bones as well as a bag containing 1,000 gold coins. And at Cosmos's feet was a small treasure chest. It was the secondary prize. He could choose between 1,000 gold or the chest with an unknown prize inside it. Alrighty, choose your prize. Gold or treasure chest? What do you chew? Just give me both. Jean responded, tired of the place. Laughter exploded from the audience. In the history of the arena, it wasn't the first time the victor requested for both of the prizes. But never this blunt. I didn't get to sleep for the first few days, and I almost killed Dante while fighting him. Risking my life to take these pathetic prizes, and to choose only one. He could not accept it. Remembering the wave of despair when he thought Dante was dead, Jean thought that even owning Cosmos's entire pirate gang didn't satisfy his frustration. I understand that you want to have it all, haha. But you see, kid, we have this thing called tradition. And I can annihilate that history and tradition today. Cosmos frowned then nodded. Yeah, okay, buddy. Take it all. At that point, Cosmos and the spectators knew that Jean was some hotshot from a famous clan. The Pirate King let him do as he pleased simply because he didn't want to mess with him. This runt kinda feels like he's from the Hidden Palace. Ha. Starting next year, I'll make sure to do thorough background checks. Make sure that there are only lowly runts who I can control. After the ceremony. While the drunkards rampaged the arena, Jean and Dante reconciled in the cell they first met. Together with Baradin, who escaped from his bodyguards. Wow. You two lived here for multiple days. My goodness. I wouldn't even survive one day. Even my clan stables are better than this. Baradin cracked open the luxurious wine, which he ordered the bodyguards to bring before the event. Glug, glug. While each goblet was filled, Jean passed the bag of gold to Dante. You're giving it to me. Yes. You take it. But you're the victor. Well, don't take it if you don't want it, then. Dante stared at the bag then shook his head. No, I shall take it. Although the Hyran clan has a lot of money. I will place this upon a pedestal when I get home. To commemorate this moment. With a lifted mood, Dante took the bag and shook it. A solid jingling sound echoed throughout the cell. Seeing Dante's look of satisfaction, Baradin licked his lips in disappointment. Jean, me too. Gimme something too. Some souvenir. Today was a special day for me too. Eyes glimmering, Baradin put his two hands forward. Do it yourself. Jean would have responded heartlessly. However, since Baradin really did something special today, he felt kind enough to offer him something. Jean wanted to keep the shark bone trophy with his name on it. So only the treasure chest was left. Thinking of a good idea, Jean nodded. Wait a sec. Clack. Jean broke the lock and opened the chest. This was the first time he revealed the contents of the box. Paper. Inside the box was a poorly drawn topographic treasure map with an X near the middle. Oh. There's ancient texts on there. I've never seen those characters before. Interesting. Give that treasure map to me. No, your souvenir is the box. Take it. Oh, that's great too. Thanks. One guy says that he'll display the bag of gold on a pedestal, and the other is thankful for some garbage. Are they idiots? Jean chuckled. As he laughed, the other two began to laugh as well. Then, Jean straightened his expression, and the others coughed. Hey, Dante Hiran. Let me ask you something. Oh, ahem. What would you like to know? Why didn't you use your secret technique? I'm sure I said to not go easy. Dante scratched the back of his head and responded. You did not use your secret power and went easy on me too. Therefore, I didn't think that my secret technique would make it a fair fight.